Harry's wife. See ya, Scobie. Hello, I'm H.G. Tudor. People are seen as appliances by us. You are washing machines, television sets, toasters. If you want the full weight of knowing just how we see you, watch my excellent video, You Are a Toaster. People are there to serve us. People are there in relation to the prime aims, namely you're there to be controlled, and you must be controlled. You're there to provide us with fuel, though not always, and you're there to provide us with character traits and residual benefits, but again, not always. Of the prime aims, from some people we obtain all 4 items, with others it's just 1. The fact is that you are only of use to us with reference to the prime aims. We don't actually like you. We like you because you're fulfilling an aspect of the prime aims. We create an impression of loving you because of your capacity to fulfilling the prime aims. We're polite to you for the purposes of achieving the prime aims. We punch you in the face for the purposes of achieving the prime aims. Whenever it comes to an interaction with another person or where it's contemplated, it is always, consciously or subconsciously, in relation to the prime aims. You must never lose sight of that fact. Never think, oh, the narcissist does like me on occasions. No, you're only liked because of what you give us. There is no altruism with us. There is no being decent to you for decency's sake. We're only decent to you because of what you're providing to us. And this means that everybody can be dispensed with. There are essentially 2 ways that a narcissist dispenses with appliances. Disengagement, where we shut you out completely, although of course we are free to re-engage with you at a further juncture, and shelving you, which is where we pop you back on the shelf without completely shutting you out. And again, we can take you off the shelf and use you, and then pop you back on the shelf and move you backwards and forwards at a dizzying pace. There are many individuals, of course, that are subservient to the narcissist and nail the colours to the mast of the narcissist. And one individual who has done such is the lapdog, as he's often known, the cheerleader of the Sussexes, the improbably named plastic-faced lieutenant that is Omid Scobie. This individual, who apparently passes for a journalist, was instrumental in the writing of the absolute excrement publication, Funding Freedom, Finding Dollars. I beg your pardon, Finding Freedom, part of which I've parodied in the past. He and an individual who has now decided that she never wants to be associated with that publication ever again because she's gone into hiding, Carolyn Durant, basically took Harry's wife's yearbook or diaries and then filled them out with some descriptions of where she'd been, to make it all seem about how wonderful Harry's wife is, and to a lesser extent, Ginger Bollocks too. Scobie is a lieutenant of the Sussexes, regularly popping up with hilarious frequency on Twitter to wave his pom-poms around for Team Sussex. He engages in issuing their propaganda, throwing pelters on their behalf at the royal family, and generally is firmly wedged up the derriere of the Duchess of Overseas with his tongue, firmly trying to lick her insides. Quite an odious individual, and another person who's completely brainwashed. Even the most brainwashed of lieutenants, however, can find themselves thrown to the wayside, and it would appear this is what has happened to Omid Scobie, which underpins and emphasises the callous and guilt-free nature of our kind, whereby we simply don't give a shit about you. You're there to serve us. You're there to be controlled. You're there to give us fuel. You're there to carry out what we tell you to do so. As a valued lieutenant, you issue our propaganda asserting control over the people on our behalf. You assist us in our smear campaigns. You assist us in validating our views. You run errands for us. You undertake tasks for us. You're there as an attack dog for us. And if we deem that you're of no longer use to us, we can either disengage from you, or more usually you're popped on the shelf with a devaluing slap around the head, wondering, what have you done wrong? And this is what has happened to Omid Scobie. He has been delivered a figurative slap from Harry's wife through Ginger Bollocks. The Daily Mail reports, Prince Harry claims that Omid Scobie's account of how Harry's wife allegedly underwent unsparing kidnap training is all utter nonsense in his scathing memoir. The Duke and Duchess of Sussex's friend published a book called Finding Freedom in 2020, which was based in part on briefings from a close friend of Harry's wife. Let's be clear, Harry's wife provided the material. It's obvious if you read it. Yet Harry focuses his sights on Scobie's account in his book, Spare, although he refrains from naming him. The Duke, or more accurately, his American ghostwriter J.A. Muringer, writes, a best-selling book describes the day special forces came to our house, grabbed Harry's wife, put her through several intense days of drill, pushing her into back seats and car boots, speeding away to safe houses. Indeed, Scobie's account claims the training which all senior members of the royal family, except the Queen, have completed at SAS HQ in Hereford is preparation for all high-risk security scenarios, including kidnapping, hostage situations, and terror attacks. Harry's wife took part in a staged kidnapping. Well, how apt that it's staged, like so much of what she does, where she was bundled into the back of a car by a terrorist, taken to a different location, and then saved by officers firing fake guns, the kind used in Hollywood filming, hopefully not those used by Alec Baldwin, I suppose, for realism. Scobie continues, during the mock kidnapping, Harry's wife was even taught to develop a relationship with the enemy. Oh, I'm sure she did. She was also instructed on how to drive a car while in pursuit. A source said it was an extremely intense and scary experience for Harry's wife, but one that she was grateful to have gone through. Kate didn't undergo her training until after her wedding to William, but Harry's wife's took place earlier as the couple had received an unusually high number of threats. According to Harry, this is all utter nonsense. So all of this detail that appears in Finding Freedom, which the lieutenant had reliably put in there to make it look like that she was ready for action, but also, of course, to maintain the victim narrative of the fact of them receiving a high number of threats, Harry now states is nonsense. Therefore, that either suggests that the information that was given to Scobie, because it had to be given to him, was given by the Sussexes and they had lied, or the information has come from elsewhere and now their lieutenant is being told, you just wrote a crock of shit about us, which basically says, we don't like you anymore. The lapdog gets kicked into the corner. Harry continued to write that Harry's wife wasn't given 1 minute of training. On the contrary, the palace floated the idea of not giving her any security at all, because I was now sixth in line to the throne. Well, cost-benefit analyses have to be undertaken. The alternative also is that in actual fact, Harry's correct in what he's saying, that it's all nonsense, or Scobie's correct and now Harry's lying. I think it's more likely, of course, that the material provided to Scobie was a crock of bollocks, because having had the misfortune of reading large sections of Finding Freedom, it is evident that large parts of it are essentially fantastical in nature, coming from the deluded mind of Harry's wife. Yet, here's Scobie finding himself out in the cold, finding his recollections being described as a load of nonsense. It comes after Scobie launched a staunch defence of Spare, arguing the prince was right to write his own story, just as King Charles and Diana both did. Writing in a column for Yahoo, Scobie criticised media coverage for casting the book, which details alleged fights with Harry's brother, the Prince of Wales, as a tawdry tell-all. Such blind devotion of the improbably named Omid Scobie, and where does it get him? As it is always the case with a narcissist, it gets you absolutely fucking nowhere. You can be a loyal lapdog for years, and then when the narcissist decides that you're of no longer any use, or in order to maintain a different narrative, your narrative has to be poo-pooed, then you will. There's no loyalty to the lieutenant. All loyalty is one way. You are expected to be loyal to the lieutenant. We can do what we want with you. And thus, as a consequence of his recollections in Finding Freedom having scorn poured on them by Harry in Spare, it would seem that at the moment the use of this particular lieutenant has run its course, and he's been popped on the shelf, notwithstanding his repeated attempts to curry favour with them and support them. I'm H.G. Tudor. Thank you for listening.